So knowing more about the human microbiome is going to impact every area of healthcare in the future.
This is the Game Changers Video Podcast. Stories of people, ideas, and technologies that are making the world a better and more sustainable place. I'm Michael Best.
And I'm caught by surprise. Caught be surprised.
I'm Michael Best.
And I'm Jonathan Winch.
In today's episode, we had Anita Johansen and Caroline Montelius of Probi. It's a Swedish-based company specializing in probiotics, and they are most likely the world's leading pioneer in probiotics.
Anita is the CEO of Probi, and Caroline is the head of scientific affairs.
It's a pretty safe thing to say that both Jonathan and I really enjoyed this conversation. It was an eye-opener, and man, I didn't realize what I'm missing and what I think I need for my own health.
I'm sold on probiotics. I already knew a little bit about it, but getting the chance to speak to two total experts in the field, and then to hear what they were taking for probiotics.
They're actually using what they make. So you got a little bit of trust going on there.
That was like the key learning. If the people take it themselves and they are educated and trained in medically, then okay, I'll believe it. It's also like there were some big learnings in here for anybody who wants to look after their health or, to make sure they have a good health span in their lives.
Yeah, it was a good reference.
Yeah. I mean, I take vitamin supplements, I also take protein supplements. But probiotics, haven't been near them. I know sort of about them, but I haven't been near them. So this is kind of, for me, this has been a kickstart to looking into the right supplements. It was good to meet Bengt, the founder of the company. He's 78 now, still semi-active in the company. That was pretty cool.
And he performed biopsies on himself back in the early days of the research?
Yeah, a little scary to hear that, but you could do stuff then you can't do now.
Did what he had to do. Actually, I have high hopes that this episode can inspire a lot of people to take control of their health in a new way that they haven't maybe ventured into or even been aware that they could do it.
You heard it here.
Anita and Caroline, welcome to the Game Changers and welcome to our studio van. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. It's exciting.
Very nice to be here.
So you guys have got 170 people working in Sweden and in Singapore. Where else was it?
In the US.
In the US.
Yes, and also a few other locations globally.
Okay. And you're working with probiotics. Can you just start this thing by helping us to understand what are probiotics?
Of course. I think the simple say is that probiotics are good bacteria. But then there are, of course, a few definitions that needs to be followed. So you need to have live bacteria, and you need to be able to show that they have an effect in humans. So there need to be a clinical study showing that a specific dose of these live bacteria can bring health benefit to human beings or to the host that you're targeting with a supplement. In our case, it's the humans that we want to bring a health benefit to.
Okay, so this is a supplement.
Yes. It can also be a food. You can find probiotic bacteria in a food supplement or in a health supplement. But they need to be live and they need to be defined which kind of strains they are and how much to bring that health benefit.
So are these naturally occurring or they are artificial or?
They are natural. I mean, we find bacteria in many places all over, basically in our cells, in humans, but also out in nature. And then those strains can be collected and isolated. And then, of course, we need to do a lot of research to understand, are they safe? Do they have any issues with safety, which we, of course, don't want? And then we isolate that strain and we start exploring the benefits. And if they are beneficial, that's the strain we want to choose. And then we will ferment it and kind of multiply the strain into many of identical strains.
So you just told us what probiotics are. The good bacteria. Can you tell us how what you're doing is actually changing the world? What is it doing that's making the place better?
Well, I mean, we have so many bacteria in our guts, and we can see today that about 90% of all diseases that we see in the world today are actually connected to the gut.
Did you say 90%?
90% of all diseases. So that's, I think, is the answer to why it makes a difference, because we can actually provide a healthier life for all these people that are suffering from all of these different kind of diseases.
You're talking all kinds of diseases,
All
no
kinds of
type.
diseases, yeah. I mean, it all starts in the gut. This is where the majority of our gut bacteria are located in the GI tract. But the GI tract is everything from the mouth to the rectum, so it's all the way through. It all starts here, but this has very widespread effects all over our bodies. So it can affect everything from our brain function to our bone formation to immune status, cardiovascular diseases. It's connected to the majority of diseases we see today.
So what sends it off track? We're all born with bacteria, and our systems should be able to function as we go through life, but apparently something's happening.
I think every time we go through different life stages, we will all experience imbalances in our gut microbiome and the gut bacteria. So it can be we're going through stress. It can be we are traveling and we are eating some different food than we normally eat at home. It can also just be the general diet and the lifestyle we have. So when we go through all of these different things, sometimes our gut microbiome will be a little bit out of balance or in a dysbiosis, and this is really what happens, and then it will start affecting us in various ways. We all know about gut issues. That's kind of where everybody connects probiotics to health, but those gut bacteria, the good ones, are actually influencing many other things, as Caroline just indicated. So they influence, as we said, the brain, but also our cardiovascular or metabolic health, and other things, the skin even. So we know that is happening. There's still a lot to explore, but we do know that our diet and how we live, our lifestyle, will be impacted, and the bacteria we have in the gut will be impacted by how we live.
Timing of this, how sensitive is the body? How frequently is this changing or swinging up or down? You mentioned food. If you're traveling and eating or doing something different, is my gut biome going to change within a 24-hour period?
It could. I mean, it depends on, so if you get a drug, for example, if you get an antibiotic, it will change immediately. Basically, an antibiotic is a pharmaceutical drug that is intended to kill bacteria, kill the bad bacteria, the pathogenics that we don't want. But they are not that selective, so they will also kill off the good bacteria in your gut. So if you take an antibiotic, very often you will feel, some how do you say that, disadvantages in your gut, and that's an immediate effect. But there's also the long-term effects of just having maybe a poor diet or not getting all the vegetables that you need or the fibers. It all affects the gut microbiome, and it will have sometimes immediately effects and sometimes long-term effects.
You say antibiotics. I mean, that's the obvious one, right? That kills everything. We kind of know that. You mentioned stress. How much stress does it take to affect the gut biome? Is this something that,
How do you feel when you have an exam tomorrow? Right. We can all feel that in our guts. It's our gut bacteria that somehow is affected by our brain.
Is this something that science missed? I mean, it sounds like it's a very important thing. And is it something that has been missed in normal medical science over the years?
I don't think it's been missed, but it's still a fairly new, let's say, subject to look at. So if we go back just like 30 years, 40 years in time, there was very few publications that was coming out talking about the microbiome. We're talking about different kind of effects or an effect from a pharmaceutical drug or the correlations to a disease. That was very, very seldom. Now we see that it's just increasing. So just this year, there are more than 2,500 publications out this first 6 months talking about different diseases and how probiotics. 2,500 within the last 6 months.
Wow. Help me understand the bacteria that's in us needs to be fed by vegetables primarily, right? That we're eating. Yeah. And if you don't eat a healthy, balanced diet, you're essentially harming the bacteria that's in your gut, if I understand that correctly.
Yes, potentially. But I think there's something to, there's a difference between fermented food and food in general, because most food does contain bacteria and good bacteria, and also sometimes, unfortunately, bad bacteria. But probiotics are, as Caroline just talked about, the definition, those are specific strains or specific unique characterized strains that have been shown in a clinical study to have a certain benefit, so a specific benefit. So it's not, fermented food generally speaking, we don't know exactly how many cells are in there. We don't know what are the cells, and we don't know their benefits, except that they are like generally good. But in probiotics, we've shown it in a clinical study that they have a specific benefit. That specific bacteria, then when we grow and we multiply it, but given that specific bacteria, it will have a certain benefit on the end user. And that's the difference. I think it's very much more controlled and researched from a scientific perspective, which you would also research, drugs really. But it's also important for me to say we're not doing drugs. We are doing food supplements or ingredients that are being used in foods and in food supplements. It is not something that is meant to cure a disease or change anything that is a disease. It's a supplement to the food where we've shown benefits, like a vitamin or a mineral that is also well known for many people.
So a key takeout from that one is that Anita and Caroline don't do drugs.
That's right. No drugs.
Okay, good. Got that
No
under
drugs.
control.
I think we have a good example. Maybe you can talk about our osteo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so as I mentioned previously, it all starts in the gut, but then it has all these different kind of health benefits. So, I mean, one example would be that you can actually, by increasing your gut bacteria, adding on specific strains that are known to have this certain effect, you can have an effect of decreasing your bone loss. So normally in all of us, as we grow, we will increase in our bone formation as part of growing, of course. Then we come to like a steady state before all of us will actually have more of the breakdown of bones that are occurring. It's more prevalent for women when entering menopause. Then we have a very, very big drop in our bone formation, and bone loss exceeds that. When adding on the probiotic strains that we have been researched on for quite some years now, we can see that these specific strains will have an effect on the formation of bones.
So to put that in other words, right? If you are a woman around menopause, how do you know which food to eat to strengthen your bones and to stay with strong bones? You don't know that. But then when you look at the probiotics that we produce, we know because we've studied that specific combination of strains, and we know that will actually make a significant difference if you take that product versus if you take a placebo.
And it works for everybody.
It works for everybody. We've shown it for women, but it of course works for men as well. It's more of a problem with women in menopause, but even men when they get older also start to decrease their bone mass. So bone health is really important for everyone to stay active, right?
Still.
Okay.
When do we start this?
Now.
Yeah,
No.
now.
Because the thing in my head is like, okay, you're mentioning an obvious thing for females that go through menopause. They'll know when that's happening, so they can begin to do something about it. For us, you're saying it happens a little later.
But it does happen.
But when?
From 45-ish of age, it will start to have a annual decline.
So
in
I'm
our
already
bone mass.
behind.
Yeah, well,
You're
we're
already
already doing well with it. We're
Great.
We'll find a sample for you.
So a question therefore is like, an obvious one is, how do I know if my microbiome is optimal for my stage in life, et cetera, et cetera? How can I know that? And are there going to be any fast tests? Am I going to be able to, at some stage, go on my watch and just say, oh, hell.
Is there an app for that?
Probably someone will offer you an app. But the question, I think, is what is the optimal microbiome? I don't think we know that today, right? So there's no kind of laid out a full map of how is the healthy microbiome. It is still being explored. I don't know if we will ever get there. And I think it might also differ from person to person. What is the healthy microbiome for you? But I think as humans, we all know when we are out of balance. We can feel it. We will have different issues we're struggling with. It often starts, people have gut health issues. And actually, globally, more than 50% of everyone has occasionally issues with their gastrointestinal. So it can be anything from bloating or abdominal pain and constipation or diarrhea. More than 50% of the population globally experiences these challenges. But it can also be other issues that you suffer from. I mean, it could be lack of sleep. It can be stress. It can be
Or poor immune system that you very often encounter upper respiratory tract infections, for instance. That's a risk factor, if we say so, for an unbalanced gut microbiota.
So that's how you know if you are out of balance. You basically feel that you are getting maybe more infections or poor sleep or feel stressed or have those gastrointestinal issues.
Those are all physical health related. Mental health, same thing?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think all of us can relate to that feeling. You are going away to the grocery store to buy just 5 items, and then you enter and you can't recall what was the 5th one. I only have 4 now
That
in my
happens
head.
to you too?
It happens to all of us. And I mean, that's an indication that we are in a stressful environment, which we all are today globally, I think. And this is also an indication that there is an unbalanced gut microbiota, where we actually can help with, again, increasing the prevalence of this certain bacteria that have shown to have a clinical benefit.
Yeah.
And where do we go? Where do we go to find probiotics? If you walked into a store, would you know where to go to find them?
No. Yeah. How do I know I need it? What do I need?
Yeah.
And how do I use it?
And Jonathan, you have a very good point. It's really hard for a consumer who comes into a store to find the products that they need. And I think today it's different from country to country, but it's not, our legislation may not be where it should be. So today it's really hard to talk about the benefits of the ingredients and the ingredients that we provide with probiotics. So that's really what the customers that we have. We work with customers who then brings the product to the market, the branded product to the consumer. So with
manufacturers of...
Yes. So basically we manufacture the ingredient and then we work with the partners that has the end product. But anyway, so they are struggling and we're trying to help them. How do we communicate the benefits of this unique ingredients that we have? Yeah. And sometimes it's really hard because of legislation. So we try, of course, to also communicate in other channels. We speak a lot with doctors and healthcare providers. It can be pharmacies or
dietitians. A lot of different channels.
So I think when you go, when you are a consumer and you go into the store and you actually, you have an intent to buy a probiotics, what you should ask is it the specific probiotic strain in the product that I'm looking at? Is it scientifically documented? Is there any scientific clinical studies backing the benefits that they are claiming on this product? Because some products, they may claim it and it's not really scientifically proven. And other products are really well documented with several clinical studies showing the benefits that you're actually looking for. So that's the question you need to ask the ones who are selling the product. Is there
a handbook or a guidebook anywhere, a repository of information that we can go and read through for probiotic strains that are documented for a variety of things? Because what you just described means I've got to already walk in knowing I'm looking for a specific product. We don't even know what product.
No, but what you know probably when you walk in, what is your need? What are you looking for? Do you have a gastrointestinal issue? Do you need support to your mental wellness? It can be you need support for managing a stressful day, or you need maybe more cognitive support or sleep. It can be you've heard about that bone density support that you can get, or it can be you have a skin issue that you want some support with. And almost everything you can think of, there will probably be a probiotic strain that has a proven benefit. So you need to know as a consumer or as a person, what is the need I have? What am I looking for? And then, of course, you need to find the right source of information that can give you valid information that has been clinically documented.
So where do we look for that source? Is that the pharmacist, or do we need to go doing some research?
Not. I think the easiest thing as a consumer, if you you have the indication you're looking for, you go to that shelf where you see the different probiotics, and perhaps there is one then called, let's say, female, just for simplicity. You put up 2 different kind of female ones. Then first thing, what strains are there? Are there actually defined strains? Does it say, for instance, Lactobacillus plantarum 299V? Is there a certain name to the strain, or does it only say bifidobacteria? If it only says one word, only one of these words of the bacterial strain, then it's not clinically documented for at least 99% of them. Because if you have a clinically validated strain, you want to, of course, give the name of the strain on pack, because that's
it's a unique.
So it sounds a little difficult to navigate, right?
Also, because you said the name of the... Can you just say that name again?
Yeah, say it again.
Just say it one more time.
It ended with 299. I caught that.
Yeah. So Lactobacillus plantarum 299V. 3 names.
Wow.
Yeah. If it has that.
Wow. Okay. Is it possible for consumers like us to go to your website and read some sort of guideline or documentation about the probiotics that are documented as having been clinically, scientifically proven to work on specific things. Can we go and read an overview of that?
Yes.
We can.
You can go to www.probi.com, and we offer a lot of scientific material and background, also our clinical studies. So you can read about the benefits of our strains and what we've proven in clinical studies. Yes.
Because what I'm interested in being able to say to our listeners of the podcast is, some of them we hope will go, yay, this is exciting. We really want to embrace this. Okay, where do they go? What do they do? How do they start? Because they're just like us, a little confused.
Yeah.
So I'd like to be able to read an overview of what's available. What should I be looking for? Because if I go to the pharmacy and I start to, wherever the stores are that we can buy these, and I start looking at boxes and products with product names, now I got to go home and start doing research based on all of those names, because that research isn't there in the shop.
You are right. It's fairly complicated. And again, when most of our business, we sell to other customers, and they put our ingredients into their end products, in their branded products. But we actually also have a small business which is direct to consumer in Sweden. We've been in the market in many years with our Probi brand. So in Sweden, you can actually buy the finished product. You can go in the pharmacy and you can select the specific product depending on your need and the benefit you're looking for, whether it's gut health or it's bone health or mental health even. So and that is also being expanded. So we have also that business to consumer offer in other Nordic countries, so Denmark and Norway and Finland.
Okay. Didn't know that.
Yeah. So, wow, it's still spinning with the potential there. Who's the best person or the type of person to go to for advice? Is it your doctor? Is it the pharmacist? Is it some holistic, healer that's out there reading and studying all of this? How do we find a professional advisor?
Depends on the country. I mean, if it's here in Sweden, unfortunately, there is no one to really go to, because there is very little education about probiotics in the medical training, as well as in the dietary for the dietitians in their training, and for the people that works in the pharmacies, even for the pharmacists. It's a very little that is included in their training. In other countries, it could be different. So in some of the European countries, you should go to your medical doctor. They would have more information to give you and to provide you. In some countries, they will always, for example, recommend that you have a probiotic together with antibiotic therapy. In some countries, they don't recommend this, even though there are so many clinical documentations showing that it does help you when getting antibiotics to also supply with good bacteria afterwards. So it is a little bit hard, but I think for the general consumer, if we go back to that, when they are in the pharmacist or in the drugstore and are looking at different products, you could actually just Google that last name of the strain. If you find something, when you just Google it in your phone, if you find clinical studies, any kind of a scientific name, then most probably it has a clinical study to back it up. So it is publicly available to look at clinical studies and to read up this short abstract that is intended to be quite an easy read. Then, of course, the full scientific articles are not that easy to read.
No.
But just the first few lines will give you some indications.
And a good advice would probably be to select trusted brands, companies that create products that you trust. I think that's the first piece of advice.
Yeah.
Those companies usually will pay more maybe for the ingredients, and their products may be more premium price, but also the quality and the benefit, the efficiency of the product is going to be there. I think that's one thing. And also it's also, I think, very important to know that when you look for a probiotic, you shouldn't it's not a numbers game. You shouldn't just look for the product that has the largest number of actual strains and the largest number of cells in the product. It's not about the numbers. It's more about the specific strains and if they have been proven in a clinical study.
Interesting.
And yes, we understand it's complicated, and we hope that in the coming years also the legislators in Europe, for example, will help us so that it's easier to really talk about the benefits, because I think that is needed to create consumer awareness.
How many probiotics should the average person be looking for? How many are available? Yeah. How many does our body need? I have no clue.
Because I'm not going to buy 50
No.
bottles of
No.
probiotics. So
No,
should I be
of course.
buying 5 or where?
I think, I mean, of course, you need to be careful. You can't have 50 different products, but probably there'll be, I mean, hundreds of different probiotics with different proven benefits, and this number will increase, of course, as we
So
move
now
forward.
we're in the hundreds.
At
already.
least, right? So the question is, how do you choose? And again, it comes back to what is it that you need? What is it that
Right.
you are looking for? What's the benefit that you think is important for you? Is it that you want to, prepare your bones for healthy aging? Is it because you have gastrointestinal issues, or are you concerned about your brain health?
We can probably all agree that there's a lot of negative news out there about where the world is going.
We need more uplifting stories that can ignite hope and accelerate the changes toward the brighter future that we all want.
I want it. You want it?
I want it.
Our listeners are the people that are really curious about all kinds of things. They want to know about all kinds of new ideas and technologies that are going to change the world.
So if your company has a game changer, get a hold of us. We would love to hear from you. So, if I may ask, how many of these are you each taking? I mean, do you have like 5 that you take on a daily basis, or
I
how
have
does that work?
4 that I
You have
take
4.
on a daily basis.
And I have 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, and
Can
they
we
are
ask what?
experts in the area.
Are we allowed to ask what?
Sure.
Tell us about it.
Do you want to start?
I can start. So I, of course, take the most clinically documented one that we have that is for general health and where it all started in the gut. So that is the LP2 nanaV strain. So do we say the branded names in Sweden? Or so that is the one that is called Probi Original in Sweden. So the original one.
So that's a general broad
That's a
spectrum
general
kind
one.
of thing?
I mean, it really starts in the gut, but it has indications far beyond the gut. So it can help on these normal gastrointestinal symptoms that we discussed with occasional bloating or abdominal pain, all of these kind of things. But it also gives a very good, let's say, standard balance to everybody. So it gives a good base. So for someone that doesn't say that I have a specific symptom, that is the one that I would always recommend. Start with that one and see how you feel. Because we know that 9 out of 10 people will have a benefit from it and will actually feel a benefit from consuming that.
And is that a daily dose?
It's a daily dose. So it's 1 capsule daily. So
Okay.
I take it, I give it to my children, I give it to my husband, and recommend it to everybody. So that one I start with. Then since I'm a woman and still not that old, I also have sometimes issues with my iron levels. So I take one specific product that is called Probi Female that has a probiotic bacteria that increases our absorption of iron. So it doesn't add on more iron, but it actually, or a very low dose of iron, but it increases everything that I eat that contains iron. We increase the absorption of that iron. So then I take that supplement. Then, of course, I'm also taking the supplement to decrease bone loss, because that will happen. And I'm in that age span where I should start to consume that kind of product. And the 4th one is to increase my immune system, since I still have young children that will bring home a big variety of different viruses. And I want to decrease, both for me and for them, the risk of getting an infection out of these viral infections.
This is good to hear, because this makes it very concrete. And what about you, Anita?
I basically take more or less the same. I don't take the iron absorption product. I do take the one for active or keeping my bones healthy. And then I'm very much looking forward to being able to access the next launch. We have our Probi Sensia or Sense, which is the gut brain or the mental wellness product that we will be launching now, because that's gonna support my wellness of my brain.
More specific.
Yeah,
Can you
more
tell us-
specifically, yes, we have 3 clinical studies on this product that we're launching now, showing that it will improve cognition and memory, mood, sleep, and stress.
Wow. How soon can I get some?
Yeah, very soon.
Very soon.
Yes, we're launching it now.
I mean, I've accepted the fact, not just from here, but from what else I've heard, that probiotics are really a game changer. They're really something that's changing the way that medical science looks at treatment.
Yeah. But there's much more to come, and we also, I mean, we are still investing for future research and future products, and there's some very exciting perspective, I think, coming on what we can do with finding the right probiotics for other things.
Okay, tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, the next big thing is probably going to be metabolic health. And maybe you can start talking a bit about the issue with metabolic health.
So I think if we look globally, we have about 30% of all deaths that happen is actually due to metabolic health issues. Most
30%.
30%, more than 30%.
Wow.
Cardiovascular disease, most of all. And out of these 30% that has to do with cardiovascular disease, stroke and heart failure is about 89% of them. So we have so many global deaths that is coupled to the metabolic health. And metabolic health is, of course, composed of a lot of different components. It's everything from weight gain and obesity to then cardiovascular disease problems such as high lipid levels in your blood, or cholesterol levels, or it could be blood sugar and insulin that is not regulated the correct way. So it's a lot of different things, and blood pressure, of course, as well is also coordinated in this. And we have seen the last, I would say, decade that the science within what bacteria can do to impact our metabolic health is increasing. And then again, going back to the very specific kind of probiotic bacterial strains that can actually have a benefit by, for instance, decreasing your cholesterol levels, which then goes very technically in how that happens, of course, but it is correlated to our cholesterol level and how cholesterol is regulated in our blood, which again comes back to the gut. So it's a very strong connection there, and it's very promising, I should say, because there are not that very good solutions today. Of course, you can change your dietary habits if you know that you have an increased risk for metabolic health issue or an increased risk for cardiovascular disease. But people are not that prone to actually do those very big changes to their lifestyle and start exercising more, changing what they eat.
Just the obesity issues that are facing
exactly.
the world today.
That's a very good example. Yeah. So everybody now knows about the GLP-1 mimicking pharmaceutical drugs that has hit the market now to help people with obesity or diabetes. And those drugs actually interact with the GLP-1 receptor in the gut. Mm-hmm. And what we do know is bacteria also influence the gut hormone. So, I mean, that's a very interesting connection. And we're not claiming that probiotics can help reduce obesity or diabetes. But maybe if we have the right bacteria from the beginning, we can actually stay healthy longer, right? If we add those GLP-producing bacteria and we make sure we have the right mix in the microbiome, maybe that's going to help us stay healthier.
What's the difference when we take a drug that interacts with our body? There's always downsides. There's always negatives. Yeah. Always. Yeah. Trade-offs. Yeah. With your product, what kind of trade-offs are there? What are the negatives?
None really.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we always study that, of course, and we run so many clinical studies every year. I mean, just for our most clinically studied strain, we have more than 75 clinical studies. So we always then, of course, study what kind of side effects would there be, and there are none, really.
None.
No. If there are any, it can be a little bit of gastrointestinal discomfort in the beginning. Of course, I mean, maybe you have a little bit more flatulence because you change a little bit the microbiome and the composition in the gut, so you might feel a little bit or.
But it's an evidence that it actually works.
It's
when
an
you
evidence.
Feel that if you haven't consumed any probiotic before and you start taking probiotics.
That's what cabbage does for me.
Exactly, and it's the same kind of mechanism. When you eat cabbage, you will have the fermentation by your gut bacteria, which is why you have those symptoms. But it's an evidence that something's happening, that it's actually alive down here.
Yeah. But Michael, your point on can probiotics replace drugs? I don't think it will ever. I mean, of course, it will never replace drugs because there will always be a need for drugs when someone is sick or ill and have a disease. But what I think is, at least what is Probi's mission, is to really expand the health span of people so you can stay healthy for longer. That's really what we all want to do. I mean, we want to live long and have long lives, but we want to be healthy. We don't want to be sick for the last 15 or 20 years of our lives. So it's really about having that health span versus the lifespan. We want to have those two as close to each other as possible. And I think that probiotics have a big potential to support that health span.
Imagine for a moment. Yeah. Just dream big with us. We can understand, or I can understand that is your vision now, but what's not yet achieved that would be the holy grail that you could get to?
Yeah. It's a huge question. I think the holy grail, I think as you kind of put it there is to be able to help people make the good choices for themselves so that they can choose the right bacteria that are helping them with their issues, their needs. And I'm sure going forward, there will be different probiotics for more or less every need you can think of. But my wish for just the coming, let's say, 5 and 10 years is that we can provide solutions that can help people reduce the cardiovascular health or metabolic health issues that many suffer from today. I think that's a huge problem.
I think so.
But also just like gastrointestinal problems or mental problems or other things that are affecting many people's lives and sometimes make people have issues in getting through their day. Some people that has an issue with their guts, they will have a big impact to their work life and daily personal lives. Yeah. But look, it's all connected. It's also hard to isolate and say you're only looking at mental health or cardiovascular health. It's all connected, and I think we've probably forgot in modern era that our food, the diet we eat, is really important. And if you look many places, especially in Western countries, we eat fairly poor diet. And we are processing our food a lot. We add a lot of additives to the food, and that has impacted our microbiome or our gut health. And we need to get back to being aware how important our gut health is for everything, in our health.
And the irony in that, of course, is that you then are bringing additives to counter the additives.
You can call it an additive,
but it's actually
it's a natural
components.
It's a natural.
We're bringing back.
Yeah.
I mean, if we look back in time, we used to eat so much actually fermented food, independent of where we live. We still have some fermented food, but many of them are pasteurized after fermentation. So if we mention some of the yogurts, if they don't add bacteria after depasteurization, the bacteria are not live in the yogurt anymore. So let's say live bacterial components in our food goes down as goes diseases up. So there is a strong correlation there. And I think that is where we can then, with probiotic strains and mostly with the awareness of the consumer, as you mentioned, and having people understand this connection, we can help provide healthier life in all these different kind of aspects. And I think that is, in a way, the holy grail, to make people understand, see the connections, and understand how important it actually is for them.
We got a chance to meet one of the co-founders of Probi, Bengt Jepsen, who's going to tell us a little bit about where it all started and some of the experiences had along the way. Bengt.
Yes, when we have to go back until the beginning of 1980s, I worked as a surgeon, and I had problems, but as many other people around the world was facing the same problem. The patient was septic, despite I was found no septic focus. There's no reason why we should be septic. And people are struggling with this because normally is you're septic. That means your bacteria in the bloodstream. There is a focus somewhere. And in the surgical field, you find an abscess, and then you can drain it by surgery. That's how we're interested. But it wasn't found. And in many countries around the world, they were struggling with the same idea or same problems. And then there was an article from Canada in 85 or 86 saying that the abscess that you're looking for, your surgeons are looking for, maybe it's in the gut. And then sort of started to think again, because you can't drain. It's not easy to take out the gut because you need the gut. So we had to think otherwise. So then, after some thinking, we had the idea maybe we should change the bacteria. I mean, we all focus as surgeons in Sweden in those days. You are focused on killing bacteria. Bacteria were bad for you. It should be eliminated. But then maybe we should do something different. Instead of trying to eliminate bacteria, which was not successful because it didn't work, the patient was still septic, maybe we should add bacteria. Okay, so we said we go to the supermarket and see if we can find some probiotics, because we thought they are good bacteria that we could administer instead. So do the opposite than trying to kill. But when you enter the store, you found that, well, they were very little specified what were in all those yogurts and drinks and so on. So then I met some microbiologists in the food industry, and we say we have to find out what is a normal bacterial contents relating to good bacteria, lactobacilli mainly, in the gut. And then I could use my situation as a surgeon, so I could get hold of little biopsies from guts or from operation. And then during many years, we took all the samples to the laboratory next door, and then they did a whole, they mapped the whole normal lactobacilli content in a healthy gut.
So you had kind of a baseline of what normal health was.
Yeah, that's right. That was not very well known. And the idea was that maybe we should try to give those bacteria instead by mouth. And that was the new idea about it. So we did that we did mapping for many years. It's quite cumbersome work because in those days you had to rely on culture techniques, which are cumbersome, it takes time. So we worked there several years in the same, but we continued the same thing. And then eventually our friends in the laboratory, they came up with a mixture of, these are the 10 most common lactobacilli in the gut, in a human healthy gut. Now, some of you drink it and we can see how they establish themselves in the system. And of course, when people say, well, you got what idea, Bengt? You take first drink. So I thought, well, maybe this was my last drink. But you had said A, so you had B. So I drank, and it actually tasted quite well. It didn't look well. It didn't look good because it's a grayish, brownish mixture, but it tasted slightly sour. I like that. I mean, you never know, but I wouldn't drink anything. They would tell me, so I had to have some sort of clarification of what I was thinking. But so that's how it started. And when people said, many of my surgical colleagues said, you're crazy, that's not the way to do it. And then they say, these bacteria will not survive because it's quite a tough journey. You swallow it, you have to pass the stomach, pH 1, down to duodenum, small bowel, large bowel, and then it's to pH 8. So it's well, and then you allow the bacteria should survive and establish themselves. And that was not very well clarified at all. And we found out actually that some bacteria were surviving this tough journey, despite all the prospects that they would not do it. And the best was Lactobacillus plantarum. Other lactobacilli were also good, but this was outstanding. So let's start with that. So we made a mixture of that and other lactobacilli, and then we used myself as a test person and see how did they behave in the gut. And that's when we found.
How did they use you as a test person? I mean, you drank it?
You drank it.
And then how did you see effect? Well, how did you measure effect?
Well, the first problem was to see that it survives.
That you survived as well. From there, you became a world authority within probiotics, a pioneer. And I know that's not something you like to say, but it seems to be from everything I've seen. And so you then started Probi, the company. You approached the pharma industry to see if probiotics was something that they could work with, but they identified that this was probably not the right market for them.
No.
And then you found a local businessman here in Lund.
Yeah.
Who
he was actually employed by the university to help researchers to market things.
And when did it? So then you established Probi together with a group of founders. And when did things really start to take off?
Well, that started in 1994.
Yeah.
And then it went, because it was, then we completely new, and people didn't know about it. But I mean, when you deal with gut problems and gut surgery, you realize how many people are actually suffering from all kinds of problems we've got. And you don't talk about that at dinner table or at a party.
So it started with surgery and people dying and having sepsis.
That's right.
And then it quickly became a much broader audience.
And now today in the business, you are still involved. And
well, I'm sort of just giving some ideas if needed. But I mean, the longer time ago, my role is less and less because they are self-sufficient.
Quite an achievement.
Yeah, that's good.
thank you, Ben, for sharing your story with us. It's been a fascinating one to hear, and I'm sure our listeners are going to enjoy it.
I hope so. I enjoyed myself.
And thanks for bringing all the potential of probiotics to us.
That's right.
We're very, very keen to get started on ourselves, actually.
Definitely looking forward to starting it.
I test myself, so I know it's safe.
Yep, we'll cover that.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on the show. We really appreciate you telling us about the journey of probiotics.
Thank you. It
Thank
was
you.
our pleasure. Thank
Enjoy
you so
it.
much. Hope you start now.
Yeah, we're on it.
Definitely going to start.
Yeah.
If you've got a game changer or know someone that does, go to our website at gamechangersvideopodcast.com and send us a message. Your story could be on our show. And if you enjoy the show, tell a friend and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until then, stay curious and keep changing the game. Thanks for watching and listening to the Game Changers Video Podcast.